Malcolm Campbell went to flight school in a town in Texas called Fort Walters in 1964 as a warrant officer. Malcolm chose to become a chief warrant officer in the Army instead of going in as a lieutenant after a man told him that chief warrant officers are specialists. Since flying was what he wanted to do most and flying was a specialty, he went in as a warrant officer instead.
What was your job and what kind of things were you expected to do?
I was expected to fly pretty much daily over what we call Indian country, which is bad guys down there, and preferably flying over. We didn't like it anyway. And I was a chief warrant officer, and we were specialists. So at that time, the warrant officer was a specialist. They had them in transportation, medical, supply, and flying.
Vietnam was separated into 4 corps: 1 Corps, 2 Corps, 3 Corps, and 4 Corps. Malcolm was in the 4 Corps in a unit called the Outlaws, which was a very good unit. His unit was unique and never backed off a mission.
What was the food and the living situations like?
Our base, we were very lucky because our base, you could literally drink the toilet water. I mean, it was all clean.
Oh, wow.
And we had permanent barracks and all that. But we would spend maybe a third of our time out supporting other troops. And quite often there were no facilities, shall we say. So we went out and did our business with the Gophers in South Vietnam along the north bank of the Mekong River, in a place called Vinh Long. Still have a map that was made by a Vietnamese guy from 52 years ago. Our unit was unique. We never refused a mission. And it got very sticky a few times, but in Vietnam, in our base, we had good food, and even when we were camped out, usually they'd bring a food truck. And the food was pretty decent, and it wasn't that bad. I didn't put any weight on, but we had a thing called MRE, and we'd go many times a week or more without showering.
Malcolm decided to go back into the military with his experience for Vietnam when he saw an ad the Army had that was asking for military pilots. Because of his experience, the Army wanted him to start off by teaching younger pilots how to fly helicopters. Malcolm's emotions toward going into the war were positive because he wanted to be in combat and wanted to see if he could handle it.
When you weren't flying and you just had time to do whatever you want, what kind of things did you do? Like, did you have a lot of time to just be on base camp? Just sleep, that's it?
Sleep, we drank a little bit. A lot of guys drank a lot. I wasn't really a booze.
While teaching the younger helicopter pilots, Malcolm was strict and tough, and because of this was not very well liked. But some of the people he trained say that his toughness is what saved them later on.
We would come in and do our instrument approaches. Whether it was in the clouds or not, I didn't care. I would sit there and tap on the guy's helmet with him. Tick, tick. Then they said, "Damn it, stop that." I said, "Well, when you get to Vietnam, trust me, bullets are a lot more unfun than this." I came back from Vietnam. I was pretty well messed up. Anyway, I took my movies and put them in a closet, and I didn't look at them again for 15 years. I was really screwed up. And I had a couple of guys that just breaks my heart that I didn't keep in touch with them, but I was a lot more messed up than I thought I was, because we were at a party once with my sister, and she asked me something about that, like the emotion. And I said, "Well, I think I was pretty lucky I got back and I didn't have any problems." She says, "What?" She says, "Man, you were a basket case. We were afraid to come up behind you. We would make noise so you would know we were there, because if they'd come up and I didn't know they were there, they said I'd jump around, and if I heard a noise, I'd dive under a coffee table, no joke." And I was really messed up, and I know how bad it was for the civilian. Guys come back and went directly into civilian life. And in my case, I came back from Vietnam, and I spent a year, my final year as an active duty as an advanced instrument instructor.
Malcolm originally joined the war because he felt like he needed to do something and be a part of something bigger than himself. When he went in and started flying, it gave him a sense of pride beyond words.
I was 30 when I joined, and I went through 9 months of flight school, and I had 4 months at a base called Fort Riley, Kansas. And I got married out there just before I was sent to Vietnam. My mom and dad came down from Indiana to Manhattan, Kansas. It's absolutely flat as a pancake. I mean, it is flat. And I had that one little bubble helicopter. Hey, we're getting ready to go home. So they went out and got in this little twin-engine airliner. And I got out there in my helicopter right beside the airplane, the airliner. And I went like this to the pilot. And he went like that, so we both goosed him. And I'm going down the runway, right beside the runway. We got up to about 90 knots, and that's the fastest I could go, so I just peel off. You try that now, you'll be in jail for 5 years. And then when you get back, you get to clean the guns. And that was kind of a pain in the butt, but I'd take them out 6 packs. And we would go down and eat in the mess with the messes. The upper officers always got good food. But and I always got so angry at that, because here are these little grunt guys out there. They were pulling that game still when I was in the National Guard. If you were below a certain rank, if you weren't an officer of some kind, you got treated differently. And we would always have a pilot, a co-pilot, a gunner, and a crew chief. And both the gunner and crew chief had guns to take them from.
Malcolm's unit, the Outlaws, received a medal for never refusing a mission, no matter what the circumstances were.
Our unit was given a medal, like I said, a unit commendation for never refusing a mission. We didn't care if it was daylight, rain, slide, no snow, no sleet, nothing like that. But it would rain, and it was pretty stinking miserable. But the one thing I remember about Vietnam, and I will never forget, and it's a smell. There was no sewer systems. People would go out and do their business in the field. In our home base, there were walls, and we had protocol that we would follow, so, give guys privacy and all that. But the ground units, the guys, they wouldn't find a porcelain lady for a month, maybe. And it was pretty tricky, and you can lose your humanity. You go back to a very basic existence. The thing about the Vietnamese War is we never lost a major battle with the Vietnamese communists or the North Vietnamese, they call them NVA, regulars, because we had air power. We could bomb the crap out of them, shoot the crap out of them, and throw napalm at them and all that good stuff. But they didn't quit. But they were hardcore communists, and it's an indoctrination from when you're like 3, 4, or 5 years old, and you cannot shake that. But over there, it was all business with these Vietnamese guys. They were really, the South Vietnamese that we worked with, they lost it. They couldn't fight. They didn't know how to fight. They were farmers, and you don't take a farmer walking behind a buffalo or a cart of some kind and throw him into a modern machine or a weapon. They just don't handle it, especially when they see the bullets coming at them.
So when you got assigned the missions, you could actually say you don't want to do it?
Not really.
Was there anyone else who just did refuse?
Yeah, there was a system for it. And you had a mission and you didn't want to go on that particular mission. Usually it was guys that were flying admin. They were flying the generals and colonels and majors around, and we were out doing the grunt routine, just doing medivacs and all that good stuff. And the guy would come to you and say, hey, would you take my mission today? I never volunteered for anything, I thought. And this guy, twice, guys came to me to change missions, and they were flying my Outlaw 2-7 on the tail. And both times engines blew up.
Malcolm once received a medal called the Soldier's Medal for helping to rescue a pilot who had crashed. The Soldier's Medal is the highest rank of medal one can receive while not in combat.
And the one time the guy crashed, and we actually got medals for pulling him out. There were about 10 guys. It's called a Soldier's Medal. It's the highest medal they give out when there's no bullets flying around. Basically, it's in a combat zone, but there's no live combat at the time. And the ground unit that we were supporting, 5 of their guys came down and helped out, and we got in there and got our guy out, finally. Our particular helicopter was limited to about 120 miles an hour, just really fast.
120 miles an hour is still pretty
Yeah,
fast.
well, if you're 5 feet above the ground, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And I used to like to fly really low because then the little boogers couldn't sight me against the sky, a background. They had to sight me against trees or some other kind of, and it made it very difficult. Our gunships guys came in and says, hey, Campbell, what are you doing? I said, well, nothing. He says, how would you like to go out and join us on a mission? And I said, sure, why not? It was called Operation Firefly. I should have yellow flagged. This is not a normal thing. So they came out to my helicopter and put a pole from the top to the bottom, and in the middle was a bank of 7 big floodlights. And you could move it from behind. You could move left, right, up, down. And he says, here's the deal. We know down there about 40 miles down the road, there's a big town called Mito, and it's a hub of activity at night because they couldn't stand our firepower in the daytime, but at night they thought they were pretty cool. So we got these gunship pilots, 2 sets of pilots. And they said, okay, you go up there and we'll tell you about where to go, and you go up there. Just wait till we tell you, and then turn the lights on. Because as soon as you turn the lights on, then we can see where they are, and we'll tear them up. So I go up there, and I was just below the clouds. It was looking a long range. Okay, lights on. So I turned the light on, and my crew chief says, oh my God, look at that. It looks like a bunch of ants down there. And they're all shining flashlights at us, and says, no, you dummy, they're shooting at us. And I mean, there were hundreds of guys down there, and these sampans, they were from 10 feet long to 100 feet, 150 feet long. I mean, what they were doing was transferring ammunition and supplies to the smaller boats that would go out, because the big boats were basically supply ships, if you will. And so they said, turn the lights off, turn the lights off. I said, okay. So I turned the lights off, and I immediately pulled up into the clouds, and for some reason I made a right turn, 90-degree turn. As I did that, 2 sets of blue-green tracers came up to my left, maybe 100 yards away. They had tracked where I was going, and they didn't think I would turn. So they fired a couple of long bursts up there, and one of those bullets hit us, it would have torn us up. So I was in the clouds for 20 minutes back home. I got direction, because again, I was an instrument pilot, so it was easy. My crew was scared to death. Couldn't see anything, you couldn't see a thing, and we let down and landed and went in and decided we invited the enlisted guys to come in and have a couple of toddies with us, because we were all pretty well rattled. And about 10 minutes later, here come these gunship pilots, and they were jumping around like they just landed a mission from Mars and it was successful. And I says, well, how'd it go? And he says, oh my God, he said, we literally destroyed 100 or more sampans. And he says, I can't tell you how many we killed, because when we left, there wasn't anybody shooting at us. So they went through there and ate it. I mean, they ate them up. And they thanked me for going out there. And I said, you're not welcome. Don't ask me to do it again. That was pretty, when we looked down there, and my crew chief says, hey, Mr. Campbell, they're shining flashlights at us. Dummy. But anyway.
That's crazy, though.
Oh yeah. And the whole thing was over in 5 minutes at the most. I had the light on for maybe 30 seconds. And they took 10 minutes to destroy everything on the ground, and we went back and landed. So the whole mission was maybe 45 minutes to an hour. The action was less than a minute for me.